But, we've got some injury reports to discuss, gentlemen, especially for week 10. We heard a little something from Kalen DeBoer about the updates, but we'll know a little something by Wednesday because, like, for example, Gino Vandemark, was making good progress, as DeBoer was saying, and he was practicing last week. So that's a pretty good sign. And I know that Quay Roussar should be coming back, I believe. But what are your reactions to the injury report, gentlemen?
Yeah, with the Geno Vandermark injury, obviously they were holding him out last week for precaution. You know, they got the bye week coming up and things of that nature, and just to get an extra week under his belt and really get back in the form, get an extra week of practice and stuff like that. I believe that should do the Alabama offensive line pretty good as they continue to rotate up front. And with the Quay Roussol injury, obviously he's been out since week 4 at Georgia. Really didn't know the severity of his broken foot. It has been reported as a broken foot. Don't know the severity of it, but got some encouraging news. Like you said, Kellen DeBoer is saying he's looking more and more closer to getting back on the football field. So that's pretty good, especially with Alabama moving deeper into their season. Playoffs around the corner. That could be just a scary reinforcement for that defense. So those two updates pretty good so far. Yeah.
No, I just kind of piggyback off what he said. With Quay Russaw in particular, obviously not sure if he's going to be able to play this weekend, but the way that he was playing, before his injury is broken, was it his foot? I think. Yeah, he was playing well, and you pair that with the way that Yonze Pierre is playing, and it's a new looking defense. I know it was everybody was healthy coming into the season, but both of those players have progressed and grown, from that Florida State loss. But definitely be huge to get him back soon. Gino Vandermark, he's a guy that you can play at multiple positions. Played at right guard, he's played a little bit of left guard. You can use him interchangeably. It's going to be huge to get him back, 100%. But also add on to that by saying that Jaden Roberts getting back to full health is pivotal, and I think that Jaden Roberts, being healthy, more healthy than he has been, the last year or so, should definitely alleviate some of the pressure on Vandemark to have to play. I think you can kind of you could even use Wilkin Formby at guard, Jaden Roberts, Cam Dewberry. So you got options. I think that's very that's very exciting, that development. But I'm just ready to see these guys back in action. I'm ready for Alabama to be back at full health. I know that the team's been battling, everybody's battling injuries at this time of the year, but, especially, those guys in particular. So it'll just be interesting to see, how Alabama looks. I guess you could say in the trenches, because all these guys are, they're in the trenches. So it'll be interesting to see how they fare moving forward.
Agreed. Because I'm ready to see what things will be looking like. I mean, when we didn't have Lottie Brooks against South Carolina, that did hurt us a little bit against them. It was like he was sorely missed. I mean, it was unfortunate that nobody was talking about Lottie Brooks prior to the year, but I'm glad everybody's talking about it because, I mean, he's been an X factor all season. Like, he's been playing a huge part in our success.
Yeah, especially with just the way Todd Simpson spreads the ball around and stuff like that. Having an extra pass catcher, extra person that can make the next, that can make the first person miss. That's just real important. And just with the depth of the Alabama receiver room, like I said, you can just never have too many playmakers on the perimeter and in the slide and stuff like that. So definitely the return of Lottie Brooks. That's definitely something to be watching for. I'm definitely gonna be watching for it for sure. Definitely.
No, I kind of agree with what both of you kind of said. Lottie Brooks is a guy that a lot of people, they had high hopes for, but they didn't know what he would necessarily do in year one as a true freshman. You don't see a whole lot of guys that were like Ryan Williams and Devontae Smith and people like that, Julio Jones. But, Lottie Brooks, he's been a nice addition to the receiving corps. Obviously it kind of hurt that he wasn't able to play against South Carolina, because I think that would have been an even better chance for him to get, involved in the offense and get acclimated and stuff, especially with Isaiah Horton going down. You had to turn to Rico Scott. Had Brooks been healthy, I think he would have been that guy that Alabama turned to with Ryan Williams and Jeremy Bernard. But very pleased with his play. I think he's actually performed better than I think, I expected, probably most fans as well. I can't really speak for them, but he's definitely exceeded expectations for me thus far. A guy that literally wears 17 like Jalen Waddle. He's fast, he can play in the slot, make big plays. So it's going to be huge to get him back. And have him as that third or fourth receiver, however you want to look at it. It's going to be good to be able to throw him back in the mix.
Yeah, I'm excited about what we're going to be bringing against LSU this Saturday. Like, Brooks coming back, that's a huge boost to that receiving corps. But it's always fun seeing Ryan Williams, Jeremy Bernard, Horton, hearing the Tide calling from him, Brooks, Cuevas. Oh my God, I'm getting so excited.
There is no shortage of weapons.
It's like Christmas is here already.
Yeah, man. It's like, you just got all kinds of talent, at the skill positions. And then, you mentioned Cuevas and Brooks and Horton and Bernard Williams. You got those guys, but you also look at a guy like Daniel Hill, who's really stepped up recently as well. There at running back, and he's especially the South Carolina game. I'm not sure that Alabama gets away with a victory. If Daniel Hill didn't do what he did out of the backfield, especially reeling in those passes, and he really helps in the backfield and maybe some of that pressure, the amount of carries that J.M. Miller had to take, I guess you could say. But him stepping up, and then Kevin Riley's been a guy that you could kind of turn to in the backfield as well. So having Kevin Riley and Daniel Hill, I think it should only bode well for the offense moving forward. I know there's been some struggles in the run game in particular, but with the way that Daniel Hill's playing and J.M. Miller's playing, and the confidence that offensive line has, almost back to full health, like you said, with Geno Vandermark making progress. So I think everything should just, continue to fall in place for this Alabama offense.
Oh, agreed. And, Danny Lewis Jr., I know we've been hearing a little bit about him, and DeBoer was kind of going, we'll see, at the presser on Monday. How are you feeling about that?
I'm not really sure what the deal is with Danny Lewis. I thought that he would have an increased role from a season ago, especially with CJ Dupree going. I thought he would kind of have a role similar to Josh Cuevas. I can't confirm this, but I just have this feeling that he's been dealing with a lingering injury, kind of similar to Jaden Roberts, I would say, dating back to last year, and he just hadn't been able to get to full health. If you can get a guy like Danny Lewis back, it would definitely add depth. I think Alabama really likes Danny Lewis. I think he was really supposed to be a big part of Alabama's offense this year. But obviously with him going down, you've had to turn to guys like, it's tight end by committee, Jay Lindsey, Caleb Edwards, Marshall Pritchett here and there. So it would definitely be huge to get Danny Lewis back. I know his presence as a run blocker for sure, but also as a pass catcher, you have to account for, the trio of wide receivers you have, or the quartet for that matter, and then also deal with Josh Cuevas as well as Danny Lewis if he's able to return. So I definitely think that it would be a huge be able to get him back, either for the LSU game or hopefully the Oklahoma game at the latest.
Oh, that would be cool, man. That would be cool. Travion is back from technical issues.
Sorry about that. Sorry.
Oh, you're good. It's no worries. The technology is deciding to do the mess around with Travion. It's like, But Travion is going to save the day because he's terrific, man. Terrific Travion for the win. Now, we were talking a little bit about Danny Lewis and his injury update. How are you feeling about Danny Lewis this week, Travion?
Uh, I saw last week that he was a game time decision versus South Carolina. Just my same similar thoughts to the Geno Vandermark injury and his the precaution that Kevin DeBoer and staff using with him. I think it's pretty good that he gets another week just to continue to progress in practice and show that he is fully healthy. Test out that injury. He's missed a couple games this year, but when he's been on the field, he's been pretty reliable. As a blocker, in the times they have thrown on the ball, he has caught the ball. So definitely think that his veteran presence just in the run game as Alabama tries to establish that run game. Try to get any semblance of a run game. I think that it's important that he's there. Him and Quavis just continue to provide that veteran leadership and stuff like that. So I think that with him being probable and Ford said those are pretty good signs. Just to have all hands on deck Saturday when they take the field against LSU.
There you go. I mean, it's always good to have our guys ready and rocking and rolling, especially for Saturday and especially for the rest of the season. You want to make sure you got all your guys all set for Oklahoma and Auburn and for the playoffs and for the ACC title game. Because if you don't, then things are ugly. I have that Nats man up mentality.
Yeah, that's something that this coaching staff is kind of instilled in this group of guys, these players, and I think that's something that the players have kind of taken to heart. Playing for the guy to the left and playing for the guy to the right, and being selfless, and that I think that's something that's carried over from last season. You look at a guy like Tyler Booker as a leader, and it's kind of translated. You got a guy like Tim Keenan. And he's a homegrown, he's an Alabama kid, and I feel like he's kind of got that that mindset of hey, I'm gonna do whatever I can to be here for my guys, whether I'm suiting up or not, and that's something that he's done, and that's something that the rest of the team has done. So I definitely think that that's a good thing, and it's definitely been a good transition throughout the course of the year.
For sure.
Yeah, and then to add on top, just a valuable experience that the players behind those players that are stepping up in those moments, just the valuable experiences they're getting from a depth standpoint and continuing just to be thrusted into those moments and be able to show up for this team because it's very important, especially this time of year as we get closer to December and the last December and the postseason and stuff like that. Just having those guys not being afraid just to step up when their number is called because like Brody said, this team has embodied this next man up mentality this entire season, and who knows when that's gonna be gonna be tested. So it's definitely big just to see that that when those key players are out, the amount of times that players on this roster have stepped up, whether they're underclassmen or just players that sat behind players and continue just to work their way up the roster. So that's definitely important moving forward. Yeah.
For sure, man.